Let's be real. Some of you listening right now are exhausted, not because you're not capable, not because you're not successful, but because you've been carrying too much for too long. The business, the people, the expectations, the pressure to always have the answer. And nobody sees it because you've mastered performing strength. But what if the next level of your leadership is not doing more? It's becoming more present. Today's conversation, yeah, this one is going to hit a little bit different for you too. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast, recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mindset Master Moments. I'm your host, Dr. Alisa, your number one mindset disruptor, where we shift how we think so you can change how you lead, live, and show up. And today, we're not just talking about strategy. We're not talking about scaling. Listen, there's enough for that out there. We're talking about something most leaders avoid, and that is presence. One of my favorite subjects for, let's say, a decade and a half. I've been in the practice, getting better every day. But today, we're joined by an expert. His name is Mr. Hank Miner. He is a former CEO of a multinational company for over 30 years, a leadership mentor for founders, executives, and high-level professionals, navigating pivotal moments, and someone who brings over 50 years of lived leadership experience. But what makes Hank different? He doesn't just teach leadership. He teaches leaders how to stop performing and start being, being here with us right now. So whatever you're doing, just be present for this episode. He is also a lifelong horseman and falconer, which, let's be honest, already tells me this man understands trust, energy, and pressure in a way most boardrooms never will. Hank, my friend, I am so happy to have met you and welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. I am so looking forward to this conversation. In your own words, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Well, what I do is just help people get in touch with that deeper sense of who they are and then be a leader from that place. Oftentimes in leadership training and leadership institutions, we're taught skills, communication skills, conflict resolution, delegation, time management, lots of skills. And those are really important. Those are the more tools like that we have on our tool belt, the better. But those tools are only as good as the person using them. And so what I found over my time in leadership was the people that I respected, that inspired me, that I felt demonstrated the greatest impact and presence were those people that had done the inner work of leadership and then expressed that outward. And it took me quite a long time to get to that point, but that's the work that I do with leaders now. Most of my work is private one-on-one work with high-level senior leaders, entrepreneurs, founders, corporate people. But it's always about where are we coming from as a leader? How do we look at the world? How do we see ourselves? How do we see each other? And the way we do that determines everything that happens next. The way we interpret and understand the world will determine how we speak, how we think, how we feel, how we act or interact. And so my work is internal work, and then it's always grounded in real world scenarios and situations where people are in their leadership positions. So
yes,
I hope that gets you down the road a little bit for what I do.
it does. And you got me so excited and all giddy because you said my words that think, speak, do. That's where I'm at. I say the way we feel, think, do, speak, and that's what we become. Feelings is all lacing between all those things. So let's get straight here because most leaders are rewarded for performance. So when you say shift from doing to being, some people are like, what does that even mean? Can you explain that for us, Hank?
Yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. Most leaders, and it's not a sin by any means. As leaders, we are hired and paid, or we pay ourselves if we're self-employed, to create progress, to create results. And so there are a need to be metrics in leadership, my opinion on that one. But what happens what happens with a lot of leaders is in their doing, they are so caught up in the actions and the results orientation of it that they lose sight of some of the more relational aspects of leadership, which are very powerful, like when you're leading teams and so on. So the shift from doing to being it's not leaving the doing. As leaders, we're never going to not do. That's what we do, right? We are leaders. Leadership means the action of
It's a
leaders.
verb. It's a verb, yeah.
So there's always that. But what I find, if people stay in the doing aspect of leadership too long and too intensely, you mentioned the word things like burnout and exhaustion. We get stale. We lose sight of the larger picture. We lose contact with our own sense of purpose. And that's an unfortunate thing. It's an occupational hazard for leaders who are, listen, I was absolutely guilty of this. I was a go-getter. It was 4 wheels and no brakes. I was down the road and I wanted results. That got me a long ways in business. But then I hit a ceiling and suddenly I lost the drive and I lost the meaning and I lost the sense of purpose. And I became a bit stale as a leader. And I realized that there was a deeper part of me, and I've seen this in all leaders, that when we connect to that central place, it energizes us. It keeps us connected to purpose and meaning.
Yes.
And what happens is we get rolling as leaders. And so we don't take the time to pause. And particularly when you're working with someone who's been there, someone who's been where you are, where you're trying to go. You pause with someone, a strategic thinking partner, a confidant, someone where you can pause and slow down and then start to gain perspective. And perspective in my world, we'll talk about presence quite a bit, I hope, because it's the solution, it's the resolution to this doing. The being part of us knows what rest is and knows why it's important, knows what relationship is and why that's so critical in leadership in the world of business. So making that shift from doing to being is really more of a leveling up. We're not going to stop doing, but we're going to bring the sense of being up so that they're working together. It's the yin and the yang. They're not going to overshadow one another. They're going to mutually support one another. And that to me becomes the sign of a very healthy leader. And when the people that I know that lead from that place, when they walk into a room, it changes the field. It literally changes the field of the room. And that's a very high state. And when I see leaders like that, I love to spend time with them because they have brought being up to the level of their doing, and the two are an amazing combination.
Wow, that is absolutely true. So what I'm hearing you say, Hank, is that a lot of leaders, what was the one thing that would get us in position to lead? That is the actual thing that's breaking us down at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
it's uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, those of us who are good at doing, we can be good at it to a fault, to a point where it works against us, and that's not what we want. That's counterproductive. And so, diving into presence is, and again, we'll talk more about that because my definition of presence is it. In many ways, it overlaps with what I would say the common understanding of it is, but it's expanded, and I hope we get a chance to get into it a little bit.
Yes.
One of the things that I've learned over the last several years is I've seen a pattern where leaders hit a threshold. So when we talk about overwhelm and burnout and exhaustion and going stale, I see it in 3 levels and 3 thresholds where there's an emerging leader who's a rising star. They're trying to become a mature leader, and there may be a gap in their game, or they want to compress that time it takes from where they are to where they'd like to be sooner, but they don't have the maturity yet. They don't have the wisdom and the vision yet. And so that can be a threshold for them. When we are leaders, and when we've been in the world of leadership for a while, in the world of business for many years, we hit a threshold of an established leader where when we got into, not because we're failing, by the way, but because we're successful, we're carrying more weight now. As an established leader, we're carrying more weight, more complexity. Our consequences have much more far-reaching effects. And so at that level, there's a threshold. And then I've gone through this next one. The last one that I learned about was the legacy threshold, where when we're getting ready to leave leadership, day-to-day leadership, when I was getting ready to leave my company and sell it and move on, I went through an identity crisis. Well, who am I if I'm not that guy? If I'm not the CEO that I was for 25 years, then who am I? And what meaning, what legacy will I leave behind? So those three stages of the emerging leader, the established leader, and the legacy leader, those are real pain points. Those are real thresholds that people go through. And there's a way through that. But
Yes.
lots of times people just hit that ceiling and they burn out. So hopefully we can do better than that. That's part of my purpose on this world is to help leaders navigate through those thresholds and get to the other side, because the things that got us to where we are not the things that are going to get us to the next level.
Come on now. That's important. Yeah. Yeah, you said something that stuck with me, Hank, and that's some leaders carry more than they show. Let's unpack that because I know my audience and they're the strong ones. They are the dependable ones. They are the ones who everyone comes to, but nobody checks on a lot of times. What is the cost of carrying that weight without presence?
It's crippling. And it comes with the territory. It is crippling on every level: physical,
Yes.
emotional, mental, spiritual. We've got to get over that. And it's not just men. Sometimes we come into the world and we carry, but in our families, I was the responsible one in my family. I was the one, when people stumbled, I was the one that helped them back up. And that was just part of my own personal history. But this thing about leadership is, as leaders, we have this myth that we can't show weakness, that somehow vulnerability or resting, right? Taking a break, going on vacation, taking a nap, whatever it is, seeking a mentor, seeking support. Sometimes people confuse that with weakness, and it's not weakness at all. It's necessary. It's absolutely essential. And we've got to get beyond this myth of leaders as always strong and never being off, always being on. And that's a dangerous road to go down. And I used to joke with my friends and say, it's work hard and play hard and work harder and play harder. And I paid the cost of that one dearly. And so it's so critical to understand the balance of time off with time on, rest with activity. And there's lots of different ways to do that. But those of us who are in leadership positions need to remind ourselves, or be reminded, that we have to take time off. You can't stay awake for 24 hours. You must sleep. Sleep is critical to our well-being. Well, resting and setting down the weight that we carry as leaders is equally, but it's very hard to do because we get caught up in the race. We get caught up in chasing the metrics and the expectations. We have to be responsible. It's like our own health. We have to be responsible for our leadership health, and it's critical that we do that. And there are definitely ways, in terms of presence and the way that I work with people, how we create space for rest and restoration as leaders. We can burn ourselves out so quickly. So
yeah. Let's talk about some of the practical tools. As you know, we love to take the practicality and dive in to making your work and your methods applicable, right? Let's talk about what are 2 or 3 of those ways. What I would love, before we do that, I would love to have you dive into your stance in your teaching on being present as a leader. If you'd walk us through, how did you even get there and what does it really look like in practice?
We'll be back after a quick break.
And now an exciting growth opportunity for you.
Hey, Mindset Mastery Moments family. I'm Dr. Kareem Ellis. And if you've been listening to Dr. Lisa, chances are you already know you have a message, a purpose, or an expertise that can make a real difference. The question is, are you positioning yourself and that message in a way that creates impact and greater income? You see, that's exactly what I'm going to be teaching in my free live masterclass titled Why Talented Speakers Stay Broke. I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes talented speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs, and leaders make, and more importantly, how you can avoid it. I'd love for you to join me. Simply visit the gpsspeakersacademy.com/free class to reserve your free seat. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, don't worry one bit. The registration link is waiting for you in the episode description. Thank you, Dr. Alisa Whyte, for allowing me to serve your amazing community. And to all the rest of my peeps out there, I can't wait to see you in class.
Well, Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power of Now. That was more recent.
Yes.
I'm older. I can go back into the 1980s when Richard Alpert Ram Dass wrote a book called Be Here Now. right? And it was all about
Yes.
being present.
Same
And so
thing.
there's been, in the world of psychology, in the world of spirituality and religion, there are people who have talked about being present. And so one of the foundation, I talk about presence in terms of three different dimensions. And the first dimension is being here now, being fully present, having enough free attention to really put your focus on someone else, to be grounded, to be centered. To me, if I'm going to talk about it in terms of energy or frequency, it's bringing awareness into yourself, gathering yourself into your center, becoming aware, self-aware.
Mm,
And that's the first order of business. If you're
mm,
scattered, if you're not in touch with the inner aspects of yourself, if there's not balance within you, then it's hard to get much of anything else done. Your impact and your influence is going to dissipate. It's not going to be as strong as it could be. So first order of business and the first dimension of presence in my work is really gathering in and becoming self-aware, becoming mindful. We talked about
mhm,
food before the session here. All those things are so critical. And there's lots of different ways of doing that, of meditation and journaling and listening to podcasts and other things. So that first
mhm,
presence is really the be in the moment, be fully here now, and be aware.
mhm,
What happens next is really interesting because once we reach that state, that dimension, it naturally starts to extend out in a relational way. It's once we gather ourselves within our center and we're balanced and aware, that energy tends to just naturally extend out. Imagine we're in a room with people and that goes out. There's almost a magnetic quality to it. It reaches out to connect with people and it starts to draw them in. This isn't something, I'm not talking about a manipulation. This isn't charisma. We're not talking, an intentional thing of I'm going to reach my energy out and draw you all in. No, no. It happens
right.
naturally when the first dimension of presence is stable and mature,
Mm,
it happens naturally and it goes
mm,
out and people start to feel you. There's something about Alisa. What is it about her? I like being in the room with her, right? And there's a magnetic quality and a relational quality to that. And then that as leaders, that begins to extend our influence and our impact. That's when we become influential and impactful in that second
mhm,
dimension of presence. And the third dimension, which is a lovely, lovely state, is once the first two dimensions are stable and mature, there's a field that's created. It's not a directional energy. It's not like an energy that goes out to the room and connects people and draws them in. It's more of a space. It's more of a field, like a frequency in a field. And when we reach that state, people come into our company or we walk into a room and something changes. People feel it before a word is even spoken. So in summary, you've got the first dimension of presence, which is being in the moment and mindful and self-aware. And in the second, it becomes relational and magnetic. It stretches out sort of horizontally and stretches out and creates connections that way. And as we get to the upper stage and the upper dimension of presence, there's a field that happens, a field phenomenon that happens, and people go, God, I just like being around this girl. I don't even know her. It's the first time I've ever met her. And it's just like being with her. And there's something there. And then anything that comes out of, as leaders, anything that comes out of those dimensions is the right thing to do. In the same situation, what I might do will be different than you might do, but they're both going to serve the people because we're coming from a place of centered and mindfulness and awareness, and we're
mhm,
related. And there is a field of acceptance and unconditional positive regard for people, and they feel it. People are
mm,
highly sensitive. So to me, the goal in leadership is to help leaders get to that place, and then all the tools that they have, all the tools that we mentioned earlier, become infinitely more effective. And so
mhm,
it's a lot of inner work. And the mindset work that you're doing is so critical because it starts there. It starts with
mhm.
starts with how we see the world.
Yes.
And so I'm going to turn it back over to you because yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So basically, you're telling me that not every problem needs to be solved immediately, and not every silence space that we're in necessarily needs to be filled. That's gonna mess a lot of people up in a good way. When I listen to you, I'm thinking, a lot of times we want to like, oh, when someone's even talking, right? As a leader, we feel like, oh, we must give a good reflective piece of advice or feedback, but not necessarily is what I'm listening to you and I'm hearing that because leaders, we're addicted to control somewhat. So talk to that leader, right? Because I'm listening. I'm like, that's a challenge for a lot of people. I remember when I first well, of course, I taught presence mean at first, and I did read the book from Eckhart Tolle. He was the one I was introduced to it, like I said, over a decade and a half ago, watching him. First time it was on the Oprah show, and then I did like one of his live global master classes where he had like a few nights or something in a week, and you were able to join and you did a study with him. And I was like, okay, so this is good. And so I guess for me at that time, it meant just sitting quiet with myself, meditating, having stillness with myself. And then as I dig deeper, it meant presence was like, okay, so being in the moment where you're at and just soaking it all up. And so it does mean putting your cell phone away. But sometimes you don't have like a physical distraction. Now I have this mental distraction.
Right.
So I might be present for a conversation with Hank by not having my phone, but as he's speaking, I'm only thinking about what I'm going to say when he's done.
That's right.
So I only heard the first few sentences, and the other half, I was creating my comeback for the first two sentences. And that's why I believe so many of us end up in arguments too, even though we're such great leaders, because we're not present. We're not listening to hear and to understand. We're listening to solve the problem and be a solution. What you're saying, we got to let go of some of that control. And that's really how we avoid all this burnout and all this stuff. So give us two practical ways, two or three, if you would love to give us more, of how and what that actual practice looks like in leadership. Because it's one thing to go off of what's well said and done and presented by, you said, Ramdas and Tolle. But according to you, you were adding another layer. You went specifically for us who our brains don't even shut off when we go to sleep.
Well, what you said that was so important was this listening to respond instead of listening to understand. So in the world of presence, as I see it, and this is a practice I do, I'll share it with you and with your audience. When I'm with you, we're going to go a little deeper in a minute, but when I'm with you, there is literally nothing more important to me in the entire universe than you. Right. So when I'm with you, when I'm with anyone, but I'm with you now, there's like a tunnel vision. Bombs could be going off on the side.
Yes.
The house could be falling down around me. I am so curious. I am so interested. I am so here to be here for you, that you are my only focus. It's intense. And some people go, whoa, it's pretty intense. I don't care. I don't care. There's nothing else going on. There's nothing more important.
That's exactly my life.
And it takes practice. And so one of the things is you have to do the inner work of clearing away old patterns and unconscious things so that you can have what I call free attention. Because otherwise you're thinking, yeah, there could be the cell phone, but more often they're thinking something, or they're reacting unconsciously. I said something, you said something, and I'm reacting. Some part of me is contracting because it's not been resolved in my life yet. And the sooner we resolve those things, the more we have free attention to give full attention to the person in front of us. And there is something really powerful and magical that happens when we are so locked into someone and just hearing what they say, just to be there. And that experience of really being heard, of being loved and valued and accepted and heard, is so rare. And in terms of leadership, to me, it's one of the core things that we strive for. And that's one of the work that I do with leaders is to be fully present with someone. From there, that field that we talked about, that relational magnetic outreach, that field can happen, but not until the first thing is handled. So the inner work of leadership for me, with my clients, with people with whom I work, is about clearing away those past things and those future anxieties and whatever. It's really being in this moment. Until that happens, the other dimensions can't work. But I love what you said, just about listening to respond rather than to listening to understand. It's a very good example. So one of the practices, you asked me about practices, is practice just clearing the screen and being with the person right there. What tends to happen is things get still. Things expand. Magic can happen in those moments, but we have to make space for it. So one of the phrases I use a lot is we're making space for other people.
Mm.
In coaching and in leadership, you said it too, we're control freaks. We tend to be, it's like we're responsible, right? We're responsible for various things, but making space for someone, holding space for someone,
Mm-hmm.
be magical when you're working with your team and you're not dictating what's going to happen. You're just holding space for them, and there's guidance. It's not like you have your hands off the reins. I mean, we're paid to have our hands on the reins, but we can be very light. You'll find out I use horsemanship stuff just because I deal
That's
with
what
it.
I can't wait to get there. I'll
Yeah.
be going
But,
right there soon.
but the practice of being intentionally present, of being completely focused on the person in front, is maddening on the one hand because there's voices going on in our head about what about this, and but I'm not sure I agree with that, and then I can't wait to respond to what you just said 2 minutes ago. Let that go. Focus on the person in front. Be there with them. Listen. These are all skills that I learned early on. Because my first career was a counseling psychologist. I was a psychotherapist, and I worked with couples and individuals, and they were called listening skills. We were taught listening skills, right? And that's what this is. And then later on with Ram Dass and Tolle and people like that, it was, well, here's the difference it can make in leadership. And it is a profound gift and talent for leaders to be able to truly, truly listen. It means putting the ego aside, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the little buggers on the shoulder all the time chirping, right? Just like, okay, I'll get you later. Step back. I want to listen. I want to listen what Alisa has to say. So I do want to hear what you have to say now.
Yeah, no, I am so fascinated with that. I believe that's exactly good advice. And I would say to anyone in the beginning that feels being present, just clearing out space, making space for people. I feel like when I put the intention, it was almost to me disgusting how much stuff I have piled in front of what I was dealing and like how cheating is that? Because I'm one of those people who take a lot of pride in serving people well. And then suddenly when I started practicing being present, I dealt with a lot of guilt, right?
Sure.
And then as I let that go, it takes so much pressure off me because now I'm showing up in the ring as a sister, as a daughter, as a, wife, as a, mentor, a leader now at my, work in my business. And I don't have no pressure because all I got to do is just be here. And the thing I have to say on top of what you said is to anyone who's listening, who's like, I gotta answer. No, you don't. First of all, you don't have to do anything but be. And when you're being, that's when the greatness and the value that's deep within you gets room to flow and pour into whatever it is you involve in. Hank, you and I had this conversation before we even push record today, and we're talking about what I get to do and how I do it in the world. And a lot of times people look at different activities. I call them activities, no matter how big a scope they might be or high risk or more impactful, whatever you think, go gauging, have fun with it. For me, they're activities. And I get to be a part of these activities, including the podcast, but I don't think people realize, how do I do it? First of all, I eat, I exercise, and I got to have my sleep. So let's just get that out there. And second, I show up and I'm all in. I'm present. So if people wonder, well, some people say, you're such a great interviewer. I'm like, I do not know what you're talking about because I never went to an interviewing class. I never practiced. I never studied anything. I'm present for these conversations. And because I'm present, my guests who are so higher learning like yourself are coming in present. What you're listening to is two humans just being present with each other. And I say everyone else who listens or watches, they're just getting to watch and include themselves. But then they come in and they feel the presence and they feel the oneness and they feel like someone knows where they've been and someone just answered give them a tool for where they might go next. But for me, that's all that presence, right? What do you think about that, Hank?
I think that was really well said. I want to give another tool, and it's interesting
Come
because
on.
You were just doing this thing about activities, and I'll call them tools, but really to me, they're more like principles, more gifts as opposed to tools.
Mm.
And I think you'll be able to follow this. So one of the things when I talk about holding space for people, um, one of the words, I don't want to go there yet. We'll go there in a little bit. But anyway,
If it's time, it's time. Go there.
I'm I'm dancing around this issue. You can tell. In the countries of Tibet and Nepal, if you and I were to meet on a mountain path, what we do is we put our hands together in front of our heart, and we bow and we say namaste. You're familiar with that word, namaste?
Yes, I
Okay.
use it.
So it's basically a phrase of respect. But at the deeper level, what it means is the divinity in me recognizes and honors the divinity in you, right? Do you remember the movie a few years back? James Cameron did this lovely film called Avatar. Big blue people, they're called the Na'vi people. And when they would greet each other, they would say, I see you. Not I see you with my eyes, I see you with my spirit, I see you with my heart. And one last example is in the Society of Friends, which we know as the Quakers in Pennsylvania, the Quakers. They had a practice that they would do in silence called seeing God in everyone. It was called. And so one of the things that I do with leaders, I do as a practice all day, every day myself, is what I call bifocal vision.
I guess. I can't wait. Thank you. I can't wait to hear about it. So take us there.
Practice this on multiple levels, but the simple example of it is our eyes show us one thing. So I see you, you have a floral dress on, you have red lipstick, you have glasses, you're a woman, right? I see you physically as someone separate from myself. Fine. Okay, great. Right? So, but if we stop there, it's that old judging the book by the cover thing, or it's very superficial. It's very one-dimensional. It's true. I mean, it's true enough. I mean, it's good for us to recognize those things. That's practical and real. However, bifocal vision says, let's not stop there. So one example of it is, I assume that there are things in your life that are challenging to you. Beyond the surface of what I see, this lovely smiling woman on the screen. There are things that you deal with, probably, that are hard for you, that have been hard in the past. Maybe you've resolved them, you've overcome them, great. But being in a body on this planet is hard. It's challenging. And now on any given day, anything can happen. So one of the things from bifocal vision is to say, I recognize the separateness, the distinction that you are a different body than I am. But I also assume and pose for myself the fact that you are, like me, a human being who has days that are better or worse than other days, and maybe some very traumatic things. Who knows? What that does, the reason I bring that up is it brings a quality of compassion and empathy into relationship. And in leadership, compassion and empathy can sometimes be seen in the old framework, the old paradigm of leadership. Now, you're firm, you're hard, you're the controlling, you're the master, right? You got the whip. In the best leaders that I've ever met and ever worked with, there was a level of compassion and empathy that was off the charts. They knew how to run a company. They knew how to have a hard conversation. They knew how to create a strategic plan and follow it through. They knew those things. But the empathy and the compassion that they brought by seeing more deeply into people, created a loyalty and a trust that was just unheard of. So bifocal vision, I'm going to give you just another quick example. As leaders, and I think you'll be able to recognize this as well, as leaders, sometimes we get lost in the weeds. There's the day-to-day things we must do as leaders. That is part of our responsibility, that's part of our obligation, and it doesn't go away. When I was running my company, there were days when what was happening in that moment took up the entire screen, the entire day. It was the whole picture. And it wasn't until I was driving home or until later that night that I would start to relax and start to see the larger picture of, oh, wait a minute, this is just a day in the week. It's just a moment in time. It's just a week out of a year. It's just a moment. It's just a thing. There was a really interesting, really wise guy once said, this too shall pass. Remember that guy? He said, this too shall pass. And the interpretation for me about that is, let's not take any one slice, any one image or moment or scenario or situation and make it the whole thing, because it's going to change. We're going to have an impact on it. So bifocal vision is being able to see the near term and the horizon and the long term at the same time, ultimately. When we first start practicing it, we flip back and forth. We get lost in the weeds, and then we step back,
Mhm.
big picture, lost in the weeds,
Mhm.
picture. But what happens over time and practice is we start to deal with that thing that's right in front of us that's in the weeds, but we haven't forgotten the larger picture, the larger
Yes.
context, and that
Mhm.
balance. So another way of talking about presence is talking about perspective. This is
Wow.
where mindset is so critical to leadership.
Yes.
So bifocal vision is that way to do what we need to do in the moment, but still maintain the perspective and the broader view of the horizon and the bigger picture so that we're not getting contracted and bound into the moment. We're dealing with the moment, but we also know at the same time there's a larger picture. And that helps people be less reactive, more at peace,
Yes.
still in internally, all those good things. So there's a couple of things that I hope people can get their head around.
Apply. Yeah. Thank you so much. So, I have to go there. And horseman, falconer. That's
Yeah,
not random. That's training in presence without words, right? What
yeah.
have animals taught you about leadership that, let's just
Or
say, the corporate environments miss?
every day. And let's not forget dogs. I was thinking about dogs
Mm,
yesterday too.
right? That's where I watch them for that part. But you went deeper with the,
Yeah. So we talked about balance, and I live in the country. We have a ranch, and it's in the middle of ranch land, and so I'm connected to the ground every day. I'm working property and hay fields and horses and things. So horses are really interesting because you can't force, I mean, the old thing about you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? We know that one. And that is absolutely true. So the thing about leadership with horses is you have to find a way with horses to gain their trust and their cooperation. And you can obviously see the link to leadership in that one. You've got 1,000 or 1,200 pound animal that's got the brain the size of a walnut and sees the world much differently than you do. So you have to find a way to enter their world, see the world from their perspective, gain their trust, be patient with them, reward good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are great for leadership. With
Yes.
falconry, with training hawks and falcons, that's a different game altogether because when we let them go off our fist, there's no guarantee they're coming back. So
Yeah.
training them and teaching them how and when to come back becomes very critical, but it's not you. And the other thing with falcons and hawks is with a horse, you can actually have a relationship. A horse can give you feedback. Hawks and falcons are always wild. So you have to accept the fact that you're going to love them as a falconer. I love my bird, but they
Right.
don't love you back. You're a food source. I'm a food source. And falcons, I'm not.
They're just using you.
That's right. It's unrequited love. I love them, but they don't necessarily love me.
Right.
But
They show up to get their
again,
stuff and they're gone.
the thread is that you have to learn to think like they do, see the world the way
Mhm.
they do. And if there's one thing that I would gift to your listeners and your viewers is that as leaders, it's an enormous gift and talent to be able to put yourself into someone else's shoes, into their body, into their perspective, into their experience, to see how they see it. Because then you can say,
Yeah.
okay, I may not agree with it, but now I know how you think. Now I know
Think.
what your position is. Now maybe we can find common ground.
Mm.
Empathy for me is the ability to see, to truly experience what someone else is experiencing. In order to
Mm.
do that, you have to listen. You have to use your
Yes.
imagination. It's like, what would it be like for me to literally be you for a moment and
Mhm.
to experience what you just told me about your day or whatever the challenge was.
Yes.
And when we can see the world through someone else's eyes, then we have a chance of connection. We have a chance of understanding and mutually going forward together. If we're just pushing our own agenda, if we're the strong one, we win. If we're the weak one, we don't. It's not the best form of leadership in my views. Perspective, understanding, empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes and being able to see it. And that involves listening and caring enough about the
Mhm.
person and about what you're trying to do it together, to move to that person. Another horse, here's another great horse thing. Sometimes with horses, you have to go along with them for them to go along with you. It's an old horse.
Mm.
Sometimes you have to go along with them.
Right.
Well, maybe they don't understand what you're trying to do. So you go along with them for a little while until you kind of blend with them, and then you can direct them back to where, as a leader, we lead, right? So we're trying to lead a team or someone somewhere, a company.
Right.
It's animals teach me a lot. And then there are the dogs. And the one thing I love about dogs is they just love us no matter what.
Yes, they do. So
For
yeah.
those of us who have dogs, and I will never not be without a dog. But one of the things that Carl Rogers, he was a psychologist back in the 1940s and 50s,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
he had a concept called unconditional positive regard, and it meant
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're doing, whoever you are, whatever you just said, whatever it is, I'm going to I'm going to stay connected to you. I'm going to give you unconditional positive regard. I may need to correct your behavior. I may need
Mm-hmm.
to have a hard conversation with you or kindly disagree. But at the very same time, I'm going to give you my positive unconditional regard.
Mm.
And what that does is it just leaves the space open. When we
Yes.
lock down and we get contracted and adversarial, not much is going to happen that's very good after that.
Exactly. So powerful because I was thinking about it. I said the animals don't respond to those titles, they respond to energy. So sometimes I think if we took a pattern from what you shared with us, if our teams aren't responding to us, it might be our strategy. It might be, maybe it's not time to sit there and think of a strategic way to get people to do things. How about just show up and be present, right? That's what I
Yeah,
was thinking.
that
Said
was
to
said
that.
beautifully because it's when strategy fails, and earlier when I was talking about those thresholds, those are points
Hmm.
at which strategy stops working. And what you
Yes.
need at that point is not more strategy; it's more presence. You need
Yes.
more of the energetic quality of leadership that can open things up, and then
Hmm.
strategy can find its way.
Hmm.
I can tell
Yeah.
you've been doing this a while.
No, it's a work in progress, even with me and presence. And there are times I say I'm in a backslidden state. But the good thing is the awareness and the practice. So when you realize that you're not performing or you're not, it's because again, you don't do it for performance and you honestly, Hank, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. You're not even doing it for the people around you. Of course, it's major benefits for your relationships with anyone being present. But the one you have with yourself and you're practicing it full out, man, that's the juicy stuff right there. That's the juicy stuff because you're the one that's going to be less stressed, less anxious, less feeling. And again, we are not people who are just going through life. We have goals, we have plans, we've got responsibility, we are accountable. But because we are, presence is a tool that you practice to take that stress down. And many of people are short lived, literally short lived. And the quality and time they would have in a leadership role is short lived because they're burned out, stressed, tired, frustrated, and on the brink of giving up every day.
No, well said. It's taking care of ourselves is we have to do that. That's a responsibility. People who drive themselves into the ground and say, "Well, I gave everything." It's like, well, yeah, but not very intelligently. We need to
And
create.
I said this one time, Hank, and nobody asked you. Most of those people would say, I did not ask you to do that. I asked you for this. You
Yeah, you went that
decided
extra mile.
you were going to do all that. And you're like, they're so ungrateful. Yeah.
We are our own worst enemies as leaders. I mean, we really are,
Yeah.
and we're in tough positions too. We're having to make decisions
Yes.
that are without all the information and pressure of time. Therefore, we need to really tend to ourselves. And this is where
Hmm.
presence for me in the 50 plus years of leadership, presence is the one thing. And then when I now you understand that when I talk about presence, it's a multidimensional thing. It's the foundation. Some people think that presence is something nice to have after you've done your leadership, and to me, it's not. That's the cart
That's the
before the
thing.
horse.
Yeah.
Presence comes first, leadership comes out of it. You stay in balance, you stay connected with other people, they feel your presence in your company and your regard. Everything stays in balance. Everything, and there's some wavering up and down. It's not static, but presence is the ground out of which leadership comes. That's my
Hmm.
that's my experience. And when the people that I work with, that's what we do is we're constantly
Hmm.
developing that sense of presence in them so that they can have the influence and impact, the inspiration and the transformation with people around them that is possible. If we're burning ourselves out and running on ego and not taking care of all the things that need to be in balance, then we're just not going to be, not only are we not going to be effective, we definitely won't be influential or transformative in our leadership. And to me, being to inspire and transform people around us is the goal. Being an
Yeah.
effective leader is a great goal, no question about it. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I experienced bad leaders in my life. I've seen
Oh my gosh, yeah.
great leaders I
And I
wouldn't.
was always curious about what got them there. I'm like, because I always believe, there's good in everyone. So I always was looking around for information, and I'd find underneath there's some people they've just been working so hard at the job, even though they have this one title that they're responsible for me for. They have all these other things that they're responsible for in this organization. And now I have compassion and empathy. But I've learned lately, I don't have to put up with it.
That's right.
Uh,
Well, and so, since we've had experience with that, we know what good leadership versus not good leadership looks like. Where I enjoy working with people is how high could we go as leaders? How high or deep, right? And in presence, I often talk about depth, but it's, could someone recently said to me, well, you can't teach presence. I mean, either you come into this world with it or you don't. No, that's not true. That's a myth. When I was young, I didn't have presence. I was full of ego. The police brought me home the first time when I was 8. They brought me home the second time when I was 10. I was not going down a good road. And in my teenage years, I was introduced to some philosophies and wisdom teachings that changed my whole life. And I'm not the person I was when I was young. So I'm a living example of you can change your stars. You can develop presence. And especially if you're in a leadership position and you want to grow and you really want to reach the highest level possible of leadership, of influence and transformation there, it's entirely possible.
It is.
You can do it on your own. It's just a longer way around the barn. It's better to have some help, but it's there and it's possible.
I love it. So, Hank, you've had such an incredible and impactful career and life, I assume. How do you define success for yourself?
That's a great one. Well, success is peace. Success is happiness. Success is purpose and meaning. It's those things. It's certainly not about money and material goods. Success is about real relationship and real connection with people. Being the feeling of oneness is me. I mean, personally, and I'm not saying this should be everybody's goal for and definition of success, but there's a deep contentment and alignment in life. And again, it comes back to presence. At the highest levels of presence and the deepest levels of presence, there is that alignment and there is that stillness and that peace and that sense of oneness. In leadership, for me, it's being able to just see in every moment, not just any moment, but in every moment, seeing the connection between people and imagining that there's a thread that connects us all. And
yes,
so getting to a point like that is success on so many levels. Gratitude is success. Just every day is just grateful for what I've been given, the opportunities I'm given to help other people. And this is what your life is about. Success is lots of different things, but it does boil down to a sense of deep contentment and peace and alignment.
Love it. I love it. Hank, tell us who you serve and how is the best way for us to connect with you?
So the people that I work with, and most of the time I work privately one-on-one, they are business owners. They are founders. They're entrepreneurs. They're senior professionals of one kind or another. It could be educators or healthcare professionals and so on. People that I tend to work with are carrying real responsibility. The decisions that they make have far-reaching consequences, and most of them find themselves at one of those 3 thresholds that we talked about earlier. They know there's something more. Strategy isn't working for them the way it was, and what brought them to this point is not going to be what gets them to the next point. The map that got them here isn't the map for the new territory.
Exactly.
Those are the people that I like to work with, and they're motivated. Nobody comes in kicking and screaming. They come in saying, look, I
want more.
I want more. And I think maybe you're the guy that can help me have more. And so the best way is pretty much direct contact. I make it real simple. I'm old school. You can tell I'm not a young man anymore. I'm old school. You can literally call me on the phone. You
I
can
love
text
that.
me. You can
That's a
send me an
privilege.
email.
Yeah.
I have a website, thewayofleadership.com. That's all possible. I only take on, at any one time, it's only a handful of leaders, because I want to give, my work goes
Yeah.
deep. It's not superficial work. That's not satisfying to me, and I don't find that it really creates the transformation that I'm looking for in people. So it's usually 6 month to 12-month programs with folks.
Nice.
But usually 8 to 10 clients maximum at any given time, because I still like my horses and my hawks, and I like to do that too. But anybody who is interested, and there's no charge for the first conversation. I just, somebody's got a question or they're interested in
See an
finding,
alignment.
let's have a conversation, get on the phone, get on the Zoom, and talk it through. And I, as you can tell, I love talking about leadership. I love helping
Oh
people.
my God, people navigate it. Yeah, so important. Wow, so awesome. Wow. Listen, this episode was not about doing more, guys. This was about becoming more aware of how you're showing up, because you can't lead others effectively if you've disconnected from yourself. Hank, thank you so much for bringing this level of depth, truth to the conversation. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, same back at you. Great job. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing such a super work in the world.
Thank you. And I get to do it with amazing people like you. Listen, disruptors, if this episode hit for you, don't just listen, apply it. Pause, reflect, lead differently. And if you know someone who needs to and have been carrying too much, just send them this episode and reach out and let Hank know you heard him here on Mindset Mastery Moments. For the unique privilege, he might just get a phone call from me, because who does that anymore, right? I have a phone number on my website, and you literally will catch me answering that call most of the time, but shh, don't tell everybody. Listen, sometimes the strongest, yes, thank you so much, Hank. Sometimes the strongest people need permission to just slow down. So remember to keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. I'm Dr. Alisa with my new friend here, Hank, saying we'll see you on the next episode. Bye now.